Hi, and thanks for listening in to the Superdog Comic Blog. My name's Kev, and it's time to continue our look at Scott Snyder and James Tynion's two-part intro to August's Dark Knight's Metal event with Dark Days the Casting. Like last time, I'm going to quickly summarize all three story beats featured in the issue, and then share my thoughts on how this cryptic cosmic conspiracy might continue to unfold. Here's the timestamp if you want to skip the summary and just get right to the nitty-gritty. Huge spoilers to follow, so make sure you pick up Dark Days the Casting before Dark Knight's Metal number 1 releases on August 16th. We pick up where we left off last issue, continuing through Hawkman's journal and learning of how in the early 20th century, he and his wife Shiera had gathered together 13 of the most powerful immortals from across DC lore, something which at the time had never been done before. Among them are hinted to be Jason Blood, aka Etrigan the Demon, the Phantom Stranger, Vandal Savage, Uncle Sam of the Freedom Fighters, and of course Ra's al Ghul. One of the hooded figures, an old man even by immortal standards, draws a dagger that sparks with lightning and plunges it into a panel as a sort of blessing over the gathering. Carter writes about what he had learned that night, of how his cycle of reincarnation had actually begun during prehistory as a member of the Hawk tribe, of the Bat Demon that nearly ended humanity in its infancy, and of the eternal war between his tribe and another which had aligned themselves with the demon. The experience had sparked an insatiable curiosity within Carter and Shiera, leading them to pursue science for the rest of the century. They had gathered together a team of explorers, the challengers of the unknown, to expose the darkest corners of the unknowable, but just as their travel device, powered by the old man's dagger, had activated, their mountain was blown apart by a denizen of the dark multiverse. Jumping ahead a bit, we see a distraught Carter Hall wandering the basement of his estate, presumably after the death of Shiera. He writes that the Thanagarians that had given him his powers in Egypt hadn't visited Earth to spread cosmic knowledge and technology, but to warn mankind of the dangers of harnessing ninth metal. As a final act, Carter leaves his journal with an ally of the Hawk tribe, instructing it to be publicized if his current mission fails. The journal ends saying that he's walking to his end alone so that no man could ever be foolish enough to follow. In Greece, at the temple of the god Hephaestus, Batman battles a hippogriff in his continuing quest for ninth metal. Wonder Woman cools down the conflict and leads him into the empty temple that once doubled as a divine forge. She tells Bruce that the gods have abandoned the Earth, believing that a true war is coming. Bruce has had similar hunches over the course of Rebirth, so Diana is pretty surprised that he seems to be so in tune with the will of the gods. She tells him of a vision she had before arriving, of being visited by a hound, the war form of Hephaestus. The hound told her that she would be needed at his temple in order to pass along the Sunblade to Bruce, a divine sword made of eighth metal, a less pure form of what Bruce is looking for. Diana passes on a final warning to him, never to trade away the light of the gods for the power of the darkness. Batman's next stop is Arizona, where he uses the Sunblade to slice his way into a Cadmus lab and finds Double X crawling out of the wreckage. Double X psychically shows Batman how one of his genetic experiments had become corrupted by ninth metal and gone berserk, and with his last bit of strength tells Batman to run. It's then that Talia al Ghul appears from out of the smoke. She fills in parts of Hawkman's story, mentioning how her father, Ra's al Ghul, had recovered a mystic dagger from the ruins of Challenger Mountain. Talia also mentions of having recruited a legendary assassin into her fold, the Silencer, who's getting her own series after Dark Knight's Metal. Bruce offers her a trade, the heaven-sent 8th metal sword for her 9th metal dagger. She accepts, shattering the pact between Bruce and the gods. Yeah, I'm sure that's not going to come back to bite him in the ass. Talia tells him that the dagger still carries immense power from the wizard that had crafted it, the power of Shazam. In the bowels of the Batcave, Green Lantern and Duke discover that Batman has been keeping the New 52 Joker hostage, but for how long no one knows. Joker takes a jab at Duke for essentially being a pointless member of the Bat family and brings up how he Jokerized his mom. Duke loses his cool and jumps headfirst into the force field containing the Joker, causing a cave-wide blackout and letting the Joker slip away. They find him smashing apart a pretty odd-looking machine and monologuing about how he and Batman had been resurrected at the cost of their memories, thanks to the effects of Dionysium pits found in the Batcave. The Dionysium also seems to have given Joker some sort of cosmic insight about what the big picture is here, which is scary to think that the Joker has some level of omniscience. He clocks Hal in the face with a crowbar, saying the end is nigh if Batman uses the machine one more time, but Duke gets the drop on him and pins him down. It's then that Joker drops possibly the biggest revelation of the issue, that some if not all superpowers in the DC universe stem from a strange form of metal toxicity, and that Duke might have some powers of his own. It's hard to tell if he's lying about any of this or not, since it's the Joker, but if it were true, it would totally change our understanding of the DC universe and most of the characters we've come to enjoy. Joker also name drops a potential codename for Duke as the Signal, and is recaptured by Hal flying a Batwing. Joker says that he's actually trying to be the good guy this time around, and that a dark crisis is right around the corner. Suddenly, Duke's powers activate, filling the cave with blinding light and covering the Joker's second escape of the issue. It's then that Batman finally shows up, reasonably pissed that his cave has been trashed. Hal rips into him about how he's been keeping a lunatic in his basement to justify some insane conspiracy about weird-ass metal and 3 Jokers running around. It was time for answers. Bruce recaps the end of his New 52 series, where he had last used the machine to restore his memories, while also witnessing the deaths of dozens of multiversal counterparts as a side effect. Duke makes a copy of the machine by channeling his powers through a lantern ring on loan from Hal, and Batman lines up some artifacts like he's conducting a satanic ritual. He gathers together molecules from Plastic Man, Atlantean and Themysciran metal, Psycho Pirate's mask, relics of order and chaos, and the dagger of Shazam, all combining to power the machine once again, but it fails. Instead of seeing what he was meant to, Batman's visions were suppressed by a gathering of cultists who proclaim the dark days are over, the dark nights are coming. Alright, now that you're hopefully up to speed on both Dark Days the Forge and the casting, I'm going to give you my top 5 questions that I'm keeping in mind going into Dark Knight's Metal, starting with, number 1, how deep does the secret war between bats and birds go? Basically what I'm wondering is if the struggle between the bat and bird tribes throughout history amount to secret societies hiding in plain sight like the Court of Owls, or if there's a cosmic significance to it like how Batman's evil counterpart is Owlman. Number 2, what did the Dionysium do to Joker and Batman exactly? I mean, whatever happened to the Joker when he was healing, this version of him seems to be a bit self-aware, talking about how he knows how the story will end, and trying to subvert the plot by smashing up Batman's final invention. We also get a line from Bruce about how he thinks the visions of the dying alternate Batman had something to do with chunks of Dionysium lodged in his skull, and since the Joker's leading us to believe that dark multiverse metal grants people superpowers, maybe it's gonna grant Batman some sort of super-duper intelligence powers or something. Alright, that one's a little bit of a stretch, but honestly, would you be surprised? Number 3, who is the bat behind the bat? Right now, the prime suspect is Barbados, the creepy apocalyptian living curse that followed Bruce through time during the Return of Bruce Wayne miniseries, and literally cursed the ground that would eventually become Gotham. Other than that, I'm guessing the bat behind the bat is an insane version of Batmite, which is an infinitely more terrifying idea. Number 4, what's Duke's role in all this? We saw that he definitely has some light-based powers going on, but how he stacks up against the likes of Green Lantern or the Ray in terms of abilities, I'd really like to see. We'll probably see him shine as he settles into his new role as the Signal, which I take to mean that Duke is going to be Bruce's moral compass as he descends into the abyss. And number 5, how will the Dark Multiverse fit into what we already know about the multiverse as it is? Hearing the Joker describe what's coming as a dark crisis is something to be both freaked out by and really excited for, especially if you're like me and read comics for the conceptual mental gymnastics. DC's bigger multiversal brouhahas tend to result in major continuity shakeups, and so far we should expect no differently with Scott Snyder playing fast and loose with the entirety of DC canon. I'm honestly just happy that Snyder's giving older stories some attention in this ambiguous DC Rebirth landscape. Overall, I can't wait to see how the greatest bromance in comics handles this event. So how are you liking the dark days and nights of the DC universe so far? I'd love to hear from you in the comments, and feel free to show your support for the channel as it grows by subscribing or dropping a like. And as always, Super Dogs, I'll see you next time.